people that join now can listen to the recording. Just a quick put it out there. Anybody had a look at this assignment? Any brave person out there? Oh, no, well, I'm so glad you're here to stay. Yes. Oh, Roxanne, you did. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Anybody else have a look at it? Ah, okay. Oh, there you go. 1.1 is fine. It's a start. It's a start. At least you've broken the ice. I always find with an assignment, once you've read the cover page and the first question, you kind of, I don't know, just a little bit of relief. It's not this big unknown factor in your life. Okay, so I'm going to start with question 1.1. That's a good place to start. Oh, before I get to that, what I've actually done is I've put together a little infographic of kind of how I will be looking at your assignment when I mark it. Obviously, you know, there's lots of room for your own interpretation. But as long as you can support whatever you're saying with evidence or with principles of the various philosophies, then you can pretty much say anything. So yeah, I really don't want you to take this assignment seriously in the sense of, no, please take it seriously, but not like in, you know, you have to have all the answers right. There's a lot of scope for personal interpretation. So yeah, I just want to put your minds at rest, at peace. Okay, so before I go into the detail of all the different questions, I thought to just give you a bit of logistics. If you could just bear with me, like the cover page. The cover page, obviously there must be a cover page. And on the cover page, if you can just put your personal details, module details, my name. There is a download option. Oh, can I zoom? Sorry. I am going to share it with you on Learn, definitely. After tonight, the recording as well as the infographic will go on to Learn. So you'll be able to look at it in a closer view. I'm going to try and zoom in here a bit. Does that help? I could actually just rather share my screen as opposed to yeah. Is that okay? Great. Yes, there is also a download option, but I will definitely load it onto VC Learn for you, RC Learn and VC Learn. Okay, so yeah, just a bit of logistics. A cover page with your personal details, module details, my name on it, page numbering, please, paragraph spacing, and please, if you can remember to start each new question on a new page. Thanks, Zach. So yeah, a new question on a new page, please. And then I will also, when I have marked it, the reason why I like you to do a new question on a new page is because I can do feedback at the end of every question. If you start question 2 straight after question 1 with no gaps or no spaces, it's really difficult for me to insert feedback. But other than feedback on your actual paper, I will also upload a rubric. Each of you will get your own marked rubric so that you can also see where your marks were awarded and yeah, where they were not awarded. Okay, any questions sort of on that level at this stage before we actually get into each question? And oh, please, yes, when you've typed this up in Word, please save it as a PDF document before uploading it onto RC or VC Learn. And obviously, you know that you've got to put it through Safe Assign. It's got to come through via Safe Assign and not any other route, via email or anything like that. A bit of a logistical thing just to bear in mind, do not wait until 11:45 p.m. and then to start uploading, because we all know how technology works. start uploading or attempt to upload at least an hour to 2 hours before your deadline time. That really just helps that if anything does go wrong, there is time to fix it. And then if something does go wrong and you see, but hang on, you're not going to make the deadline, won't you please immediately log a ticket? And if you want to take screenshots of that process, do so, just so that there is proof that you were in the process of uploading and something went wrong. So many students, they don't do that, and then they wait until the next day or the day after, and then they email and say, oh, I had this problem. But we need evidence, that you had the problem and that you did actually log a ticket. So please do that straight away. Even if it's resolved afterwards, at least you have logged a ticket and we are aware of that there was an issue. So I think that's pretty much all the in-house logistics. And obviously, academic writing, academic integrity, reference, all your work, please, in-text reference, as well as a reference list at the end of your assignment. If you look on the second page of your assignment, there is an entire description of how you can lose marks if you do not reference properly. So please read through that before you start. There's a deduction of about up to 15% if you do not reference correctly. So please make sure that you do that correctly. The other thing is, if your assignment is late, you get up to 24 hours for it to be late. However, if it is submitted after 12 p.m. within that 24-hour period of grace, you can still submit it, but you lose 15% of your mark. So if your assignment is marked and you got 75% for it, but you submitted 1 minute past 12, you will lose 15%. And if you haven't referenced properly, you can lose up to another 15%. So all your hard work, it will just kind of go down the toilet. So please, do it early, start uploading early, make sure that you get all those ducks in a row before you actually, so don't leave it till the last minute is really what I'm trying to say. All right, all good. Can I carry on with first question? Okay, no sound, no typing. I'm going to assume that you're good. Right, thank you, Lisamelo. I trust you speak for the team. Thanks, Zach. Okay, then let's look at question 1.1. Question 1.1 has to do with idealism and realism. And remember the philosophers that we had a look at in those two philosophies, or philosophical approaches, or classical philosophies as we call them, was not 2, 3. We looked at Socrates, Plato, and we looked at Aristotle. So the first question is asking you to identify, explore, distinguish between these two philosophies or these two schools of thought. So basically you're going to be comparing idealism with realism. But the question specifically states that you need to look at the metaphysical and the epistemological similarities and differences. So epistemology, for those of you who might have forgotten from our first lecture, epistemology, remember, it's that branch. So both of these, epistemology as well as metaphysics, are two branches of philosophy, two of the main branches. So epistemology is that branch of philosophy that deals with the study of knowledge. So how do I know what I know? How is knowledge acquired? How are belief systems put together? What constitutes reliable information? What constitutes reliable belief system? And how do I distinguish between what is the truth and what is false? So that's kind of epistemology in a very broad stroke. It's really looking at the relationships between what I believe and what evidence do I have of what is true and what is not true. So that's epistemology, and that is one of the main branches of philosophy. Then the other one, metaphysics, is is a second branch of philosophy, and metaphysics deals with the nature of being. So what is reality? How do I know I exist? What is the nature of my reality? Those are the kind of questions that metaphysics look at. So it's very abstract. It looks at the relationship between your mind and matter, what is really out there. So what is the purpose of life? These are the fuzzy questions that the realists and the analytic philosophers do not like. So what is the purpose of life? Um, it deals really with abstract concepts. So it doesn't look at empirical science, what you can prove with facts. It looks at um, interpretation and concepts beyond that. So that is what metaphysics is. So this question is asking you to look at the similarities and the differences between idealism and realism based on or with relevance to the metaphysical and epistemological, yeah, you can't say that word fast, similarities and differences. So I'm going to unpack the rubric because that is what we or I, whoever does the marking, Dr. You can answer this question when you're done. Where is that? Okay. Yes, it is scanned automatically when you upload. So you doing a trial on Safe Sign, there used to be a feature to do that, but it isn't there anymore. But what you can do, if you upload you get 2 attempts to upload. So if you upload the first attempt and you see your percentage is too high, then you can upload a second time, provided you do it before the deadline, before the cutoff time, if that makes sense. So you can do that. And just also remember that even if your safe assign percentage is high, it doesn't mean that you've plagiarized or that you haven't written with academic integrity. You must remember that there are hundreds of students all over the country submitting the exact same assignment. So the chances are that you're going to have similarities with 10 or 15 or 20 students. So what we do when we mark, we have a look. Let's say your similarity is 80%. We will open it up and we get a report. And in the report highlights the percentage of your similarity with other papers. So if I open up an assignment and 80% similarity and 60% of that 80% is one other student, then there's a problem. Or when 60% of that similarity is one website, so you've copied and pasted from a website or from an article, then that's the problem. But if it's 80%, but it's similarities across 200 students across the country, because you're all going to have the same headings, maybe you're all going to kind of use the same phrases, so then it's not a problem, if that makes sense. Okay, so yeah, if you've done your work and you honestly have written this academically with proper referencing, you don't have to worry. Okay, so I don't want you to worry about that too much. Okay, great. Thanks, Felicia. Right, so to unpack the rubric for this question, I do it like this because for people, for myself and whoever else is going to be marking, it just helps to also to zoom in, because some of these questions are so flowery. It's like, what do they actually want? So this is for question 1.1. The question is out of 30 marks. 6 of those marks are for you to give me the core elements of idealism and realism. 6 marks only. So in other words, 3 each. So you're going to have 3 core elements of what is idealism, 3 core elements of what is realism. And then 2 marks, okay, the 2 marks come at the end, but that's for your resources that you've used. So you must use at least, what do they say? 3, 4, I can't remember now how many, 4, at least 4 resources. So 2 marks for that. Then 2 marks for the metaphysical analytical comparison. In other words, looking at the 2 philosophies in terms of how do they see the fundamental nature of being? What is the purpose in life? What is reality? What is existing mean to idealism, and what does it mean to realism? So an analytical comparison basically means that you are going to give me a similarity and a difference. Does that make sense? So when you analyze something, you're looking at it, where are they the same and where are they different? So great. So you're going to take idealism and realism from a metaphysical point of view in terms of what is the nature of being, and give me one similarity between the two and one element where they are different. And then you give an example. That's really easy. And the example, oh yeah, let me quickly just say about examples. Whenever they ask for an example, the idea is to give an example from within your own area of field area of education. So if you are an IT lecturer, then the example must be IT related. If you are an accounting lecturer, then the example must be related to accounting. Does that make sense? So it's within your field of interest or within your field of expertise. Then we look at the two philosophies from an epistemological point of view. Again, you give me one area where they both are similar in how they see knowledge. How do we gain, or how do we get knowledge? One area where they are similar and one area where they are different. And again, an example. So for those examples, if you, try and relate it as far as possible to your field in education. Obviously, if you can't, then just give an example, but don't leave that out. This whole assignment is very example based, application of theory and of philosophy based. Okay, then they're asking you, in the rubric, you need to critique idealism in education and realism in education. Now, what critique means, it's different to analyzing, because critiquing, you are identifying the strengths and the weaknesses. So with analyzing, you're giving the similarity and the difference. With critiquing, you are giving a positive aspect and a negative aspect of that particular philosophy. So for 2 marks, you're going to give me the positive and the negative aspect of using the philosophy of idealism in education, again with an example. Now remember, these examples are only 1 mark, so you don't have to elaborate, you don't have to write an entire paragraph on example. 1 sentence, 2 sentences, just to that I can kind of get an idea of what you're saying. And then the same for critiquing realism, 2 marks. So 1 positive, 1 negative aspect of realism in education. Then for 6 marks, you need to so you have to decide which of these 2 philosophies you feel is the most relevant for education in South Africa, higher education. Okay, it's not, so if you're not in higher education, just try and imagine or speak from when you were a student. But so you're going to choose either realism or you're going to choose idealism, and you're going to justify why this particular philosophy will be of benefit to higher education in South Africa. Now, and again, 1 mark for an example. So this is probably the most difficult kind of thing to do. But again, there's no wrong or right here. So there is no one choice above the other. It just depends how you can justify it. So if you take any issue, anything in, it doesn't even have to be an issue, but anything regarding or relevant or related to South African higher education, and you can say, okay, well, I think realism would be the better kind of philosophy for this aspect, and justify. Tell me why. Why do you think that? Okay, and then the last 3 marks are for your essay construction. So that would be for your paragraph formation, sentence construction, blah, blah, blah. That feels like old school essay marking, but anyway, there it is. So yeah, any question about question 1.1, anything there that you do not understand? Okay, are we all good with 1.1? Awesome, thanks, Noel. Okay, then let's move on to question 1.2. So question 1.2, thanks, Karen. I think I get it now. I almost ruined myself. Okay. Yeah, that's why I decided to do this infographic, because it actually started with myself and a lecturer who were both marking the same assignment last year. And yeah, we just couldn't wrap our head around the rubric and the questions. So I said, no, let's just do an infographic for ourselves. And then we showed it to the students, like, oh, this does make a lot of sense. So yes, Kay, don't write too much. All right, look at the mark allocation, because I know you think, 30 marks essay, I've got to write pages, but not really, because if you break it down into the information that is required, then it's actually not a lot of writing. And to be quite honest, when a lecturer is marking, and I know you all in the same boat, and you're going to completely relate to what I'm saying. But if you are marking 30, 40, 50, 60 scripts, and people are typing 20 to 30 pages per assignment, you're going to look for what you're looking for, and then you're going to stop looking, if that makes sense. So, if I'm marking this first question, and you've written 2 type pages, and I get all the marks I need within the first page or 3/4 of a page, I'm not really going to read, not that I'm not going to read the rest. I do scan through it, but yeah. The infographic is being recorded, Lisa Mello, and I will upload it for you under announcements after tonight, so that you can have it and print it and have it nearby. Okay. All right, so that is question 1.1. Moving on to 1.2. Question 1.2 deals with pragmatism and does it? Have I got the right question? Yeah. No, sorry. Question 1.2 deals with the types of inquiry methodologies that we looked at with Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. So what I'm going to do for this question, I'm going to quickly explain to you the 3 different inquiry methods. I know that with the VC students, we touched on it very briefly. I think I can't even remember what happened in that session, but we did touch on it very briefly. I don't know if the Rosebank College students did this in their first session, but so I'm going to quickly go through those 3 with you very briefly, just so that you get an idea. But once you have yourself researched these 3 different inquiry methods, the idea is to choose one. Now, please, in the past, students have selected all of them and written the entire question using all 3. So please don't, just choose one of the inquiring methods, one that you feel more comfortable with and that you think that you could enjoy in your own lecturing, and then you answer the question based on that one inquiry method. So then just very briefly, the Socratic method. This is quite a popular one. It's used a lot in lecture halls, but it's the one designed or developed or invented by Socrates, and it's basically a process of questioning the student, reflecting, questioning, reflecting. So the idea is to develop a deeper understanding for that the student will have for what they're saying. So it's not telling the student what to think, and it's not telling the student what to do. It's more a dialogue kind of interaction where the student will say something and you will ask, as the lecturer will ask a question, and the student will give an answer, and you'll ask another question based on that answer. So it's thought-provoking questions, open-ended questions, no wrong or right answers. And the bottom line of Socratic method is that encourages the questioning of your assumptions. So, and we make assumptions all the time without realizing it, and then it's a very clever lecturer who's able to pick up on the assumption and then to actually ask the students, but why do you say that? So you're providing dialogue all the time, and you're encouraging the student to unpack their own beliefs and their own assumptions. So that's the Socratic method. Then the other one, by Plato, the Plato guided method, it's called the Plato guided method. Also a questioning thing. So you know where you want the student to go, but you want the student to discover that information for themselves. So you're going to guide the student to discover the knowledge that either according to Plato, the knowledge and the truth is inherent within the person. So the Plato guided discovery is just facilitating the student discovering what is already in him, what he already knows. So according to this method, or according to Plato, knowledge is not really transferred. So when we were talking about teaching the other night, we were talking about how teaching is transferring of knowledge. Now, according to Plato, knowledge is not transferred. Knowledge is rediscovered through the process of this inquiry dialogue. So the knowledge is already there. So it's a little bit broader than the Socratic method, where the Socratic method is like fine-tuning down, drilling down into a core belief or assumptions. The guided method is just discovering this band of knowledge that you have within you. Yeah, that's Plato guided discovery. And then Aristotle's deductive reasoning. We touched on deductive reasoning on Monday and last night, but it involves, and remember I said it's a conclusion based on statements. So you have a statement or a premise, and you have a minor premise or a minor statement, and then you draw a conclusion from that. So it's more a step-by-step logic approach to analyzing problems, where you draw a conclusion based on statements that are true. So there has to be evidence. And then once you have the evidence, you then can draw a conclusion. So it's like a top-down reasoning situation. So with Aristotle's deductive reasoning, it encourages independent learning. So it's not the lecturer facilitating anything. It's the student making these statements and then collecting the evidence and then coming to a conclusion. So it's a lot more learner-centered than the other two. Okay, so that is the 3 inquiry methods, yeah, in another very broad stroke. But the question or the rubric, or this particular question, what I'm going to look for to get you your marks is, once you've chosen one of those methods, so again, please remember, don't use all 3, just choose one. You're going to get 4 marks for describing the chosen method. Then you're going to get 2 marks to explain why you chose this. Okay, so it has to either resonate with you, fits in with your field of education for whatever reason, but 2 marks for that. Again, 2 marks for external resources that you've used. 4 marks you're given for, you have to come up with an activity within your discipline. And the criteria for this activity is that it's a 20 to 30 minute activity. So it's not an entire lesson plan. It's just an activity that you can do with your students for 20 to 30 minutes that would connect with this particular method of inquiry. So you can come up with your own activity. Obviously, if it's Plato's guided discovery or Socratic method, it's going to involve a lot of questioning. If it's deductive reasoning, it would be maybe more practical activity. But you're going to come up with an activity and give an introduction to it, describe yeah, how it aligns with this particular method of inquiry. And then for 4 marks, you tell me how you're going to put it into action. Again, not a lot of writing. So 4 marks, this is the activity, describe it, how does it align with this method of inquiry, and then tell me how are you going to implement this activity in your class. What does the teacher do? What does the student do? And here you can get, if you're doing Socratic or Plato, you're going to have to include dialogue, because it's going to be, what did the lecturer say? What does the student say? What does the lecturer say? What does the student say? Etc., etc. 4 marks, please. You don't have to write an entire play script. It's just so that I can see you understand this particular method of inquiry. And then 2 marks is for how you conclude it, and then 2 marks for your essay construction. Sure, I'm exhausted. Are you exhausted? Any questions at the end of 1.1? 1.2, how do you feel about 1.2? A specific question of the implementation activity, must the detail be referenced? Okay, that is a good question. Look, obviously you are going to design the activity yourself. So unless you are tweaking something that you've read or heard about somewhere else, yes, it is practical. So most students don't reference that, because if it's an imagined dialogue using the Socratic method, you're just going to come up with your own kind of like content, etc., etc., etc. So that does not, you don't have to reference that. If however you are using a pattern of questions that you have found somewhere else, then you would just reference that and then just tweak the question to fit in with your field of education. I really don't expect you to redesign the wheel. So if the wheel is already there, then just paint it a different color, put new spokes in, and make it work within your field of education. Because as lecturers, we don't have time to invent wheels if the wheels are already there. So I just want to see that you understand the method you've chosen, and that you were able to find an activity that will be supported by this method. So it's pointless if your activity, it doesn't really matter whether you can do Socratic questioning or not, the activity is still going to happen, or it will have the same outcome. And then your question, third last bullet point. Oh, sorry, is that what you were meaning? So you're describing of how the activity will be conducted. No, that I do not think that's going to be you. So there won't really be referencing involved there. Maybe just in your description, as I say, if you do find something similar that you can use, you might just give reference to that. But yes, good question, Nawal. Thank you. Okay, right. Any other questions on 1.2? Jabulile, yes. Jabulile, are you there? We can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, maybe. Okay, I'm gonna carry on. If your mic starts working, then just you can interrupt me, no problem. Okay. Then moving on to question 2. So question 2 is about pragmatism and existentialism. Remember, pragmatism was the philosophy that has to do with practical application of your knowledge in real life. So no airy-fairy idealism and thoughts and imagination. So the focus is on how relevant is the information or whatever for the individual, and looking at critical thinking, etc., etc. Whereas existentialism was more about the subjective experience of a person. So again, remember, existentialism was that you are responsible for creating your own meaning, and that is a lot of focus. Yeah, Shama, you're talking to Jabulele. So with existentialism, remember the focus is on being authentic, and that there's this whole freedom of choice, but that you take responsibility for your choice. And the whole thing is about making meaning. How is this meaningful to me? Whereas pragmatism is practical application of what you know in your life, irrespective of the meaning. Okay, so the question in question 2 wants you to identify a challenge in South African higher education, and then you choose one challenge and you choose one of the philosophies, either pragmatism or existentialism, and then you are going to justify how this particular philosophy can be used to address this particular challenge in higher education in South Africa. Okay, so I'm going to say that again slowly. So for question 2, the idea is that you first identify a problem, an issue that we have in higher education in South Africa. And my goodness, I don't think you're going to have to think very hard for that. I will mention a few at the end of this, but yeah, there are so many. So you're going to identify an issue. Once you've identified an issue that you feel passionate about, you're going to decide whether you're going to look at the principles of pragmatism or existentialism in addressing this issue. And then your whole essay will then be about looking at the principles and the elements that belong to that particular philosophy. Again, looking at it metaphysically, epistemologically, and then you're going to explain or justify why and how you can apply the principles of this philosophy to address this particular challenge. So before I unpack this rubric for this question, I'm actually just going to mention, I wrote some down here, just got to find them. Some challenges in South African education, but there are so many. You do not have to use one of these. I am just going to just to get your thinking juices going. But I think the most obvious one is obviously access and equity when it comes to education, that there is no equitable access to quality education in South Africa. Obviously, funding is a big thing. Transforming of our curriculum, I think that's another big current relevant topic, the whole decolonization issue. Our curriculum definitely needs diversity. We need diverse staff on our lecturing teams, and yeah, a lot more promotion of inclusivity. So there's that whole issue. There's, I think, another big issue for me in South African higher education is that we are working with a lot of students who are first generation students. So they do not have parents who have been to university. So the support at home, is not there when it comes to understanding the whole process. So I think that whole lack of home support, lack of mentoring, and a lot of those things affect their completion of their studies. So that's another issue. Obviously, there's the issue of leadership in our schools, governance, mismanagement of funds, unstable leadership. We battle to keep up with global trends. I don't think our education system is very strong on building international relationships, which is really sad. I think also we still got a lot to learn when it comes to research and innovation. Also just policies, our educational policies. So there are just like 20,000 ideas. Oh, yes. Yeah, we won't go there, Naval. We won't go there. So yeah, there's a lot of issues, and I don't think you have to look very far or think very hard to find one. So find one that resonates with you, that you're passionate about, that you would love to see solved or fixed or whatever. So I will scrap that comment from the comment box. Okay, so to unpack the rubric for question 2, you are going to get 5 marks just for identifying the challenge. So obviously you're not just going to say, I'm looking at the challenge of the South African educational policies. I'm not going to give you 5 marks for that. So you need to explain to me a little bit about it. Why is it a challenge? Why is it an issue? Maybe, give me the reasons or where you see it going, etc. But for 5 marks. Then for 4 marks, you are going to oh my goodness, guys, you're moving into very dangerous ground here. I will delete those comments. Then you're going to describe your chosen philosophy. So whether you've chosen pragmatism or existentialism, you're going to give me 4 key facts about this philosophy. Again, don't have to write pages and pages of the philosophy, because my goodness, you can about either one of those. There's so much to say, but I just want the 4 main marks, 4 main elements. Then for 4 marks, you will get when you explain why this particular philosophy is relevant or is of value to higher education in South Africa. Now, at this point, you're not talking about your challenge yet. You're just saying, I believe pragmatism is relevant to South African higher education for XYZ reason. 2 marks only. Sorry, that's for 4 marks. Sorry, that's for 4 marks. And then for 2 marks is to give me an example. Again, you can use something within your own field of education. If you can't, then, as long as it has to do with higher education in South Africa. Again, you get 2 marks for resources, and then 8 marks. So this is the bulk of your essay or of your answer is for 8 marks. Why have you chosen this philosophy to address the challenge, and how are you going to apply it to address this challenge? And then 2 marks for relevant examples. So with those examples, it means how are you going to apply? For example, if I say I'm going to apply the philosophy of existentialism, and I'm going to take a look at the South African education policy. Okay, that could be interesting. But so I would say, okay, these are the 4 elements, or these are the core principles of existentialism. So I think this is the best philosophy for higher education in South Africa. And this is how I would apply it, or this is how I would use existentialism in higher education in South Africa. So, to address the challenge. So if my challenge is the education policy, then I will say, in existentialism, when we talk about making meaning and being authentic, maybe we could reflect on our policies and, how authentic are they? Do they really? Isn't there a lot of ambiguity? And how do we take responsibility for making education policies that aren't whatever. I'm now rambling. My goodness, that was the biggest lot of rubbish. Please do not type that. But the bottom line is that in this particular case, for relevant examples, is how are you going to use this philosophy to address the challenge, not necessarily within your field of education. That's actually what I wanted to say. And then 3 marks again for essay construction. Okay, how are we doing? We're still good. Question with regards to the number of words we're supposed to write. Should we write in word count? Oh no, please! I do not expect you to do that. I thank you for all the goods and the good and the good, all good. No, I do not. I don't count number. Obviously, if the word count is 400 and you're giving me 1,000 words, I might just read the first half, but I like to read whatever the students have written because I feel, you know, you have written it, you've put effort in, you've worked, and if it takes you 100 words to explain something that somebody else would take 10 words to explain, well, you know, I mean, we all have different writing styles, we all learn differently, so I will not penalize you. Um, so no, I don't expect you to give me word counts. To be honest, I never look at word counts. I just read whatever you've given me. But please don't give me 30 pages. Please, please. I'm asking you very nicely. I might just mark yours last, and you're not going to get the best of me. But yeah, try and keep your answers brief, but don't limit yourself because you're thinking of word count the whole time. I'd rather you explain yourself the way you'd like to explain yourself. This is philosophy after all. I don't know how you can box philosophy in terms of word count. I don't really think that's possible. Great. All right, let's move on to question 3. So question 3, now we haven't got to African philosophy yet. We will be doing that on Monday night, or next week, Monday and Tuesday. But African philosophy is very exciting, and I'm hoping that it's just going to become more and more part of our curriculum and the way we think, the way we teach, just the way we do education in South Africa. So I love African philosophy because it's just who we are. You know what I mean? There's no, I don't know, it's just who we are. So for this particular question, you have to um, outline the principles, first of all, of African philosophy, and with particular reference to Ubuntu. So, yeah, I'm assuming you all have heard of Ubuntu, but it's just, yeah, the whole thing of goodwill and placing community above individual. I really think education in South Africa could be more community orientated as opposed to being competitive and individualistic. That's just my opinion. So you need to outline the principles of Ubuntu, African philosophy, specifically Ubuntu. That is, African philosophy, 3 marks, and then 3 marks for Ubuntu. So that gives you 6 marks there. And then a short discussion on the significance of Ubuntu in higher education. So for 6 marks, yes, resources are references. You're quite right. Yeah, sorry, I should have maybe put in there references. But yeah, the 2 marks and here and there that you see for resources, that is your articles and your references that you're going to source. And then for 6 marks, you're going to tell me why we need to include Ubuntu philosophy in higher education lecturing. And really, you can really write pages on that. But please, again, remember it's only for 6 marks. And and again, try and use 4 marks for practical examples. So again, use something from your own field of education. It just helps, when you use something that you understand or that you're familiar with. And then again, 2 marks for your essay construction. Right. Sure. And that is your first assignment in a very small nutshell, but hopefully a little bit more manageable, a little more bite-sized chunks than just looking at this whole big assignment with lots of words on it. How are you guys feeling? Any suggestions or questions? That's something you still don't understand? Regarding activity 1.2, that must be created. Should we add a solution? 1.2, no. Okay, that's a good question. For your 1.2, I don't expect a solution, no. So if you're going to use, let's say you use the guided method, the Plato's guided method. I mean, if your student really doesn't ever get to where you want, find the knowledge that you want him to find, no, I don't need it to be an entire from beginning to end dialogue. I just want to see in the amount of dialogue you give me that you understand the inquiry method, that you understand what kind of questions to ask. I think that's the most important thing there. Hang on, now I've got to go back up and see what was the next question. Okay, so Jabulile, does that answer your question? So you don't need to add a solution. Then Nawal asked, definitely, okay, she's like commenting, manageable. Now, why is this okay? This manageable, thank you. Feeling with better now. Okay, great. Easy essay construction. Okay, good question. Essay construction, yes, please. Introduction, body, conclusion. Please do not label your don't you can write introduction, and you can write conclusion as headings, but please don't put a heading body in the middle. It's amazing how many students still do that. I find it quite sweet, but anyway, that's very school. So you can have an introduction, and then the body part of your essay, please put it into paragraphs, and then obviously a conclusion. And yes, for every question, I would like an essay structure for every question. Obviously, in question 1.2, where you have to describe the, give the activity, or how it will play out, that doesn't have to be, you could actually do that in bullet points. So bullet question, whatever, however you want to do that. That could be a nice, easy chunks. Let me see what other questions are there. Okay, I've done that one. Can we use other sources besides the other three? Oh, yes, definitely. Yes. So you can use anything, any of the lectures we've done, any of the YouTube videos, I mean, the videos that are on the YouTube channel. Please don't use my videos as a reference. You can use the information on them, but you need to find a source that you can reference for that, because that's definitely not work that I published. So I would, use the information from your other 3 learning units, as well as obviously you need to source some articles. But you're welcome to use the articles that are on VC Learn, the ones that I've uploaded for you under the learning units, and any articles. And you can have more than what is required. That's also not a problem, but just make sure that if the question asks for 4 sources, that you have at least 4. Oh, good, Bronwyn. Yes, I'm glad your anxiety is now also broken down. Did I answer your question? Solo, what was your question? Okay, about the essay construction. Okay, got that. And then Naval, I'm not too sure if this question was posed, answered before, but when and how do we receive our marks for ICE tasks? That is interesting, because I have marked. What was your first? I have marked. Oh, what was the? Oh, gee, I can't even remember what the first ICE task was. Wasn't that a? I'll have to go and look. Oh yes, the wiki and the quiz. Yeah. Okay, so that first one you won't see that, because I didn't upload that on VC Learn, but it is on a mark sheet, so it will be uploaded onto your mark sheet on the system. So don't worry about that. And I think in the VC group, everybody did that first ICE task. There was only one person, but I don't think that person is on the course anymore. So, and then from your second ICE, I have uploaded, because the links are on VC Learn, it will show, and when I've marked it, it will also show in your module that it has been marked. Okay. Remember, with the ICE tasks, you get 4, and the mark that you get for an ICE is either 0 or 100. There's no percentages in between. So the way that the lecturers do it is they look at what the student has done, and if we feel the student hasn't put in enough effort, we give them 0, but we give them an opportunity to do it again. And then or if we feel they've put in effort, doesn't mean that everything has to be right, but we can see that that work has been done, then you get 100. So your ice marks are 4 times 100. Basically, there's nothing in between, so it's either 0 or 100. Okay, WS, okay, then we just made it easier. Also did not, yeah, Bronwyn, so yeah, same reason. Yes, resources are references, Kay. So wherever it says resources, it means references, articles that you read, etc., etc. Okay. Have I missed any question? Is there anything that anybody is still unsure of or still would like me to go over? Yes, Bronwyn, I will definitely let you know. I think the deadline for the ice marks, it's always so difficult to say that quickly, ice marks, is in May sometime. I think middle of May or 5th of May or something like that. But if there are any, ice that you need to redo, I will definitely let you know before that. So for now, all is good. All is good. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording and I will definitely